Greetings. I'm Matt Henderson, pastor of First Presbyterian Church in Clarkesville, Georgia. This is our Midweek Connection, extra opportunity to explore the themes of our current sermon series. We're walking through John and uncovering the plot that the Pharisees have against Jesus. In the Gospel of John, everyone misunderstands Jesus, at first anyway. And we first encounter this in the response to Jesus' words about the destruction of the temple in chapter 2. The Jewish authorities hear Jesus literally, not recognizing what the disciples will later come to see, that Jesus is really talking about his rising from the dead. This same kind of misunderstanding appears in Jesus' conversations with the Pharisee Nicodemus and the Jewish authorities who gather to hear Jesus explain how he is the bread of life after he feeds the 5,000. And today, we'll be seeing yet another example of this seemingly inability to comprehend what Jesus is saying. I wonder, is Jesus being confusing on purpose? Are the people, and especially the Pharisees, really that obtuse? The confusion will escalate in today's text so much that they will accuse Jesus of being crazy, of having a demon. But I'm beginning to wonder, are they really that thick-headed? Or perhaps could there be another motivation? You see, it's easy for us on this side of the story, on this side of the cross, on this side of the empty tomb, to recognize that it is perhaps another case of them thinking too literally, just as others have done. But to us, it should also indicate that the author, John, wants the readers of his gospel to look carefully at what Jesus is saying to ensure that we do not make that same kind of mistake. Again, remember the thread that we've been following through John and how it's leading us to the Pharisees' plot to execute Jesus. It began with Jesus' grand sign, his showing of outrage in the temple, of overturning the tables. The text today will also point us toward Jesus' healing of the infirmed man, that man of 38 years who stayed by the pool. But moreover, this account comes on the heels of Jesus being abandoned by many of his disciples as he invites them to new life in his body and blood. The vivid, even graphic summons to feast on his flesh and drink his blood drive the crowds away. Yet Peter confesses, "Lord, to whom can we go? You have the words of eternal life. We have come to believe and know that you are the Holy One of God." Our text today is from John's 7th chapter. After this, Jesus went about in Galilee. He did not wish to go about in Judea because the Jews were looking for an opportunity to kill him. Now, the Jewish feast of the booths was near. So they said to him, "Leave here and go to Judea so that your disciples also may see the works you are doing, for no one wants to be wildly known acts in secret. If you do these things, show yourself to the world." But after they had gone to the festival, he also went, but in secret. The Jews were looking for him at the festival and saying, "Where is he?" and there was considerable complaining about him among the crowds. While some were saying, "He is a good man," others were saying, "No, he is deceiving the crowd." Yet no one would speak openly about him for fear of the Jews. About the middle of the feast, Jesus went up into the temple and began to teach. And the Jews were astonished at it, saying, "How does this man have such learning? For he has never been taught." Then Jesus answered them, "My teaching is not mine, but his who sent me. Anyone who resolves to do the will of God will know whether the teaching is from God or whether I am speaking on my own. Those who speak on their own seek their own glory, but the one who seeks the glory of him who sent him is true, and there is nothing unjust in him." Jesus continues, "Did not Moses give you the law? Yet none of you keeps the law. Why are you looking for an opportunity to kill me?" The crowds answered, "You have a demon. Who's trying to kill you?" Jesus answered them, "I performed one work, and all of you are astonished. Did not Moses give you circumcision? It is, of course, not from Moses, but from the patriarchs. And you circumcise a man on the Sabbath? And if a man receives circumcision on the Sabbath in order that the law of Moses may not be broken, are you angry with me because I healed a man's whole body on the Sabbath? Do not judge by appearances, but judge with right judgment." Now some of the people of Jerusalem were saying, "Is this not the man whom they are trying to kill? And here he is speaking openly, but they can say nothing to him. Can it be that the authorities really know that this is the Messiah? Yet we do not know where this man is from. But when the Messiah comes, no one will know where he is from." Then Jesus cried out as he was teaching in the temple, "You know me, and you know where I am from. I have not come on my own, but the one who sent me is true, and you do not know him. I know him because I am from him, and he sent me." Then they tried to arrest him, but no one laid hands on him because his hour had not yet come. And yet many in the crowd believed in him and were saying, "When the Messiah comes, will he do more signs than this man has done?" We're now at verse 32. The Pharisees heard the crowd muttering such things about him, and the chief priests and Pharisees sent temple police to arrest him. Jesus then said, "I will be with you a little while longer, and then I am going to him who sent me. You will search for me, but you will not find me, and where I am you cannot come." The Jews said to one another, "Where does this man intend to go that we will not find him? Does he intend to go to the dispersion among the Greeks and teach the Greeks? What does he mean by saying, 'You will search for me, but you will not find me, and where I am you cannot come'?" On the last day of the feast, the great day, while Jesus was standing there, he cried out, "Let anyone who is thirsty come to me, and let the one who believes in me drink. As the scriptures has said, out of the believer's heart shall flow rivers of living water." Now, he said this about the Spirit, which believers in him were to receive, for as yet there was no Spirit, because Jesus had not yet been glorified. And when they heard these words, some in the crowd said, "This is really the prophet." Others said, "This is the Messiah." But some asked, "Surely the Messiah does not come from Galilee, does he? Has not the Scriptures said that the Messiah is descended from David and comes from Bethlehem, the village where David lived?" So now there was division in the crowd because of him. Some of them wanted to arrest him, but no one laid hands on him. Then the temple police went back to the chief priests and Pharisees, who asked them, "Why did you not arrest him?" The police answered, "No one has ever spoke like this." Then the Pharisees replied, "Surely you have not been deceived too, have you? Has any one of the authorities or of the Pharisees believed in him? But this crowd which does not know the law, they are accursed." Nicodemus, who had gone to Jesus before and who was one of them, asked, "Our law does not judge people without first giving them a hearing to find out what they are doing, does it?" They replied, "Surely you are not also from Galilee, are you? Search and you will see that no prophet is to arise from Galilee." The feast that they are referring to in the scripture, the Feast of Booths or Tabernacles, it featured a water libation ritual. And this is the context for Jesus' teaching here about living waters. During the ritual, the priests processed from the temple to the nearby pool of Siloam. They drew water into a golden pitcher and returned to the temple to pour it on the altar. This ritual reenacted the miraculous moment in the wilderness when Moses struck the rock and water flowed forth. By setting Jesus' teaching within this tabernacle's context, John is suggesting that this unexpected has taken place again, that there is now life-giving water coming from an unforeseen, surprising source, Jesus. The Feast of Tabernacles also had an eschatological dimension, that is, an anticipation of God's future reality. Described by Zechariah, Isaiah, and Ezekiel, Jesus in fact quotes Ezekiel, "On that day living water shall flow out from Jerusalem." And for John, this day, anticipated by Zechariah, is now inaugurated by Jesus' coming into the world, becomes realized in Jesus' death, when in fact water flows from Jesus' body. The crowd has been debating whether Jesus could be the Messiah, and many coming to believe. And for the religious leaders, this moment, this movement by the crowd toward faith in Jesus as the Messiah, it represents a threat that must be addressed. As I mentioned earlier, I'm beginning to wonder just what it is that the Pharisees believe. Is their motivation based on their conviction that Jesus is some zealot, a lunatic, a heretic, some crazy madman who must be quieted before the crowds follow him away from what is right and what is true? Is this their conviction? Or is there perhaps a different motivation? Is it possible that they believe that Jesus is just who Jesus says he is? The Messiah, sent from God to usher in God's kingdom? Could it be that they know the truth and are still set against the inbreaking of God's realm, perhaps fearful that their own power will be taken away. Could it be that they're in too deep, they've gone too far, and they'll do anything, even fight against the power of God to maintain control? There's one outlier, one Pharisee, Nicodemus. He's the one that visited earlier, who visited Jesus and discussed being born again of water and of spirit. What is his motivation? What is it that he believes? What is he willing to do about his belief? Here, as he returns to the story, we wonder, has he learned something? Perhaps because of his prior encounter with Jesus, he's convinced that Jesus resists any simple explanation or definition. Nicodemus suggests to the others that they give Jesus a fair hearing. It's their own law which calls them to do so. But this is to no avail. Nicodemus' fellow Pharisees didn't dismiss him as they did the crowd. In John's Gospel, the depiction of the Pharisees is scathing. Well, we will return to the story on Sunday, exploring what happens next. We'll pick up where Jesus raises his dear friend Lazarus from the dead with his great sign. There Jesus draws quite the attention, and some, as you can likely infer, unfavorable attention. But until then, the peace of Christ be with you.